Welcome back to episode 20 on the Full Disclosure podcast. And today we brought on a good friend of ours and honestly one of the best marketers that I know personally, Josh Forti. And I'll let him open up and share a little bit about himself.
Also, Funnel Hacking Live 2022.
Let's go!
Go ahead, do your Bitcoin club.
Go Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin. Let's go.
Cool. So appreciate you jumping on this podcast with us.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, let everybody know a little bit about yourself and your story.
Well, what do you want to know?
Yo, first let's start off with, when did me and you meet?
When was the first time? It was a while ago. I think it was online.
I just met you like a couple months ago.
Not that long ago, or not that long ago. But you, it's been like probably 6 years, something like that. When's 5 years? 6?
It was probably 2017.
What?
2017.
That's 5 years ago. It's 2017.
Yeah, maybe. No, yeah, it was definitely 17.
17?
Because I got started in digital marketing like late 16. And
Perfect.
Really
So 17.
Anybody.
That's definitely when we met. So 5 years ago. 5 years ago. I don't remember the first time we met in person. Probably Funnel Hacking Live, honestly.
Did you go to any of Dan Henry's old events?
Nope.
I've seen
Funnel Hacking
before I met you.
No.
When was the first time?
We met in person at the world record. Breaking the world record for the biggest
All right,
game
not
of
Funnel
bubble.
Hacking Live, but ClickFunnels.
Yo, so
Gary
quick
Vee
story.
roasted me at that one, bro.
Oh yeah, and that video went viral.
Viral. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually
Gary Vee, the Jets suck. All right.
You actually came to my place one time and he was like, "Do you know who Josh Forti is?" And I was like, "No."
Oh
And
yeah.
you came to my place and I was like, "That guy looks familiar." And he was like, "Yeah, he like hangs out with like Russell Brunson and stuff." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've
I
seen
run
a picture
the
of
marketing
him."
space, so
Yeah.
I run it. It's my space.
So and then I officially met you probably like 6 or 7 months ago. Not too long.
Yeah. We hung out. I think it was it your birthday?
No, it was Monica's birthday.
Yeah,
My
Monica's
girlfriend's
birthday at your place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Your
so
old place.
quick story. Me and Josh, did you broke the world record too?
Yeah, bubble soccer.
Yeah, so me and
We're gonna hang
Josh, we were Guinness World Record.
Were?
Yeah, someone broke the record.
Dang it! What?
Dude, someone broke the record like the next year.
Russell, we got to do it again.
So yeah, we had the world's largest game of bubble soccer. And there was a dude there from the Guinness Book of World Records.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 99 people at the Boise football stadium,
dude.
the blue turf stadium.
Yep.
And dude, I wore glasses at the time. So now I got LASIK,
Damn.
but I couldn't see shit because they told you like not to wear glasses because they'll
Dude, you
get
get
knocked
wiped
off.
out.
So I couldn't see shit.
Out.
And since I couldn't see the ball, I was just running full force and just plowing people.
Yeah.
So I have a highlight reel that I put together of me like plowing people. And
All
do you
right,
remember
insert
how
clip right now? Okay.
we'll try to find it. But do you remember Amanda Cerny?
Yeah.
She was there.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, so
I took a selfie with her and sent it to my friend, and he lost it. He's like, dude,
I didn't know who she was till that day, but she's so fucking famous.
so famous.
And then, so
For-
I couldn't see, and I just kept hitting someone, and I didn't know who it was. And then it turned out to be her
Oh, dang.
because she was doing like daily vlogs at the time, and she was like, this guy kept like hitting me on the field, and it was me just completely like fucking her up in this game of bubble soccer. And then like a year after we broke it, someone in France broke it by like 3 people. They had like 102 people. Yeah. It's kind of sweet. But I still have the plaque. So
yeah, so do I. Hanging on my wall mouth.
the funny thing is,
Bubble
no one's
soccer.
yeah.
Okay,
So like you're wearing like the
those
big bubble.
massive one, and you just run full speed out.
And
And
you
you just lay people out, and they just roll. It's so much fun.
That was on my bucket list to break a world record.
Well, we I don't remember if we won or lost. I can't remember if I was on the winning team or the losing team. But
My team lost. I was on the blue team.
okay. But after a while, it was one ball, right? Or no,
Yeah, I think there was only one.
Okay, but like with 100 people on the field, like it got to the point where like you're never getting the ball. So I was just like, all right. About halfway through, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna see how many times I can just like catch someone off guard and just see how many times
1 out of 100.
Yeah, just like run up and
Yeah.
But
That's
anyway,
all I did. Yeah.
So yeah, we did that, and then we met like 7 months ago at your old place
Yep.
before we moved to the new place.
Yep.
Now we homies.
Yeah, now we're homies, man. But really, I want everybody to know a little bit about your story on because we went to dinner and you were talking about your whole, your farm life and how you were raised, and then talk to them how you transitioned into marketing, how you even found that journey.
Yeah, so I grew up. Well, I was born in Wisconsin, and then at age 1, we moved to LA suburbs. My dad got a job out there, actually working for his brother. Lived out there for like 10 years, and then when I was 11 years old, my parents were like, "I'm summarizing, so Mom, if you're listening." Okay, I'm a storyteller. I make it dramatic. All right. My parents are like, we out, right? Like they did not want, they didn't like LA, and they felt God calling them away, right? So my dad quit his job. My parents sold the house. They bought an RV. I have 7 siblings, 8 kids total. One of them passed away. My older brother passed away a couple years ago. But we had 8 kids at the time. My parents packed all of us in the back of an RV, and we just took off across the country. And we didn't really know where we were going. We ended up in Indiana. Long story of how we got there, but basically homeschool community, church community.
How many days did that take to get there from LA to Indiana?
So we actually drove over on the road. I had my 11th birthday on the road. And so I think we left
Interesting.
3 or 4 days before. I think we left like 4 or 5 days before my birthday. We had my birthday on the road, and then we got in February 4th. So maybe like a week and a half, maybe?
So a week and a half. Okay.
Yeah, a week and a half across. We went up through Oregon, Washington, then came over. And I was homeschooled. So I don't know public school. I dropped out of college in half a semester. Like I'm just like the school system is so messed up. I don't even know though.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
So we get out there. My parents, long story short, we ended up moving to a farm. My parents owned like 22 acres out there, 22 and a half, something like that, acres out there, but surrounded by just farms, cornfields.
And you still have siblings that live out there.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up on a farm out there for the next basically 10 years, homeschooled. And like, I want to preface by saying I had a great life. It was awesome, right? It was super cool.
It was just different than the traditional.
But I didn't know any different, right? So everything I say to you, I'm saying from the perspective of I know different now. But like, at the time it was great, right? But I'm like, my nearest neighbor was a half mile away. I was homeschooled. I didn't go to public school. I didn't hang out with friends. The only friends I saw was at church, right? Yeah. So I had church friends once a week. And then pretty much it was my siblings on 22 acres running around. And we worked from, 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up, milking goats and feeding chickens and pigs and cows or whatever, right? Twice a day, every single day for, a decade basically, right? Homeschool my whole life, get done with high school. I stand up.
So no internet, none.
Yeah, like dial-up internet.
It's an important part.
No internet, no phones, no texting, like dial-up internet. Like our what we would do is on Fridays in the morning, we'd all collectively decide like what YouTube video we were going to watch that night. We would start loading it at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and by like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, we'd have like a 1 hour or a 45-minute YouTube video.
What kind of videos were these?
Like homeschool comedy, like the most innocent, like the Addams Family remix, by like crazy, like super conservative type stuff, right? And like I love my life growing up. I got nothing against it, right? It was just very small, right? Just a very very small life, right? World was very small, right?
Yeah.
And so when I was graduated high school, I bought a pickup truck, saved all my money for it, stood on the back of it. I was like, I'm never reading another book again, right? No more, right? And long story short, started a farming company, baling hay with my neighbor for the Amish, because I lived in the Amish, like surrounded by Amish, right? Half the clientele for the company, I worked at a grain company too, was Amish, right? So Amish. So we did that. It failed. Kind of not really our fault. I'm not going to go into details, right? And then I went to college and I was like, all right, cool. Like this farm life, maybe not for me.
Yeah.
Right. Went to school, half semester in. I was like, screw this. One of my proudest moments of my life is I'm in a class with this professor who's like pretty anti-capitalism, right? Not capitalist pig, right here, right? So like he's there and he's lecturing me basically about how America is evil, right? Maybe not quite those words, but basically, right, Cap? And I'm like, dude, no, like America's awesome. America, yeah, number one country ever, right? And so I'm talking to him and he's like, well, you're here because you're going to get a good education and that's going to get you a good job. And, college and higher education is, needed to be successful and all that, a bunch of BS, right? And I'm like, no. And so I start arguing with him because why not, right? I'm a rebel. And so we go and he's like, well, if you don't need college to be successful, then why are you here? And I'm like, dang. But I can't be shown up because ego, right? And so I'm like, you know what? You're right. So I stood up in the middle of class, took all my stuff, threw it in the backpack. I was like, I quit. I was halfway through the first semester. Walked down to the bursar's office right there, said to cancel all my classes. I paid for all of my college out of pocket, right? I didn't believe in debt at all. Yeah. So I lost all the money from it. I was like, screw it. Went out to my car. And I was like, I'm going to go figure this out. And so that
How much money were you out?
Like $5,000.
$5,000 at the age of
20.
It's a lot to people that age.
Yeah, for sure. I put it all in, right? But I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go figure this out. And like, I didn't know what the heck that meant. I just knew, and this is like the importance of having like a clear goal. I didn't even know it was a goal at the time, but I was like, I will be my own boss and no one's going to tell me what to do. Right? That was it. That's all I wanted to be. Right? I just want to be free. And so that ultimately led, I had jobs in between that, right? Serving tables at Olive Garden and working at a radio station as an intern, right? And all that, try to figure it out. But eventually that led me to getting online and Instagram. And I bought my first course. I think I was 21 when I bought my first course. It was on Instagram.
What course?
Instagram. Oh gosh.
Who was it by?
No, that's what I'm trying to figure out. It was Instagram Domination.
Oh.
I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, so I buy it, meet my business partner in like the, how they used to always have a Facebook.
Was it a high ticket course or a
no,
low ticket?
$1,000.
$1,000. Okay.
$997.
Yeah.
Right? Which was like
a lot. Yeah.
So much money back then, right? Like it was like all my savings.
You're working at Olive Garden,
right? And I'm living on my own now at this point.
Endless soup and salad,
right? Yeah, endless soup and salad, right? I don't even like it, right? Whatever. So, but then Instagram, like that, Instagram opened up my eyes to this world of like
social media.
Yeah, and like, wait, whoa, there's a way, because like back then the dream, it was an influencer. That wasn't a thing, right? Like laptop lifestyle, that was for like scammers or like network marketers, right? Like that's how that ran, right? Or you were rich. And so that like early wave of that and right place, right time with Instagram. And, that led me to Brunson, and we can go into more details of the story if you want to. But that's my entry point to the digital marketing world.
Yeah, why do you feel like, to go back for a second, why do you feel like college professors always like demonize capitalism?
Because what works in theory but doesn't work in action. And so what works in action doesn't always work in theory, right? And so a college professor looks at someone that is an entrepreneur, a risk taker, right? And by definition, like if you're an entrepreneur, you're taking on financial risk. You're going to fail. You're going to eventually find something that works, right? So in the college classroom, in a laboratory, like whatever it is, they're like, this is how things work, right? And so then there's all these other people that are like, no, the risk takers, the people are out there, right? And they don't like each other, generally speaking, right? Yeah. And so they think that the world can be, and I'm overgeneralizing here, right? But like the world can be this peaceful place, and that everybody can get along, and that socialism can work, and we can redistribute wealth, and it's also indoctrination.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last thought, and who owns the colleges, right? Massive penetration of information and really, being brainwashed.
Dude, I found out Harvard has more money on hand than Facebook.
$1 billion endowment.
They keep more money on hand than Facebook. So my theory on that is that if you look at the average college professor, what it's taken them to become a college professor, they see that as like the highest calling in society. Like, I'm educating the future of America's best, scholars. So when they look at how much money they make, and then they look at the guy who started like 10 pest control companies, they're like, well, I'm providing more value to society than that guy, but that guy's getting paid disproportionately. So fuck him. We should just redistribute all the wealth. And this is why capitalism doesn't work. And I think that's part of the reason why like most college professors are liberal.
Probably.
And like I saw one of my friends on Instagram from high school posted that one of her college professors, they were talking about canceling student loan debt. And he was like, I don't get what people don't understand about this. If you remove the burden of debt from America's youth, then they'll have more money to put back into the economy. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe, but like, should we just fucking erase everyone's mistakes? Like,
well, the problem is they didn't solve the problem, right? So they're gonna forgive debt, and I don't
people
even
are just gonna fucking go back into it.
But and not only that though, but like, they're still giving out the loans. They're still non-forgivable.
Exactly.
Right? I can still go take out, by the way, as an 18-year-old, I can take out an unlimited amount of debt. There's no like, oh, cool, I'm going to go to this college, and if I go to this college and it's $80,000, I can take out $80,000. If I go to that college and it's $400,000, I can borrow $400,000.
Yeah, they say that's a lot easier for an 18-year-old kid to go get a $200,000 loan for school.
100%.
But way harder to get $2,000 loan for business.
Right. Yeah. I can't even go get a $2,000 credit card to go start a business. Yeah. Right. Without credit, but I can take out a $200,000 loan
to go to school.
Right.
Yeah.
They should have just made the college debt forgivable and let people declare bankruptcy.
Exactly. They need to make it to where you can declare bankruptcy on the debt. Right. Because then it becomes like a normal debt. But the problem is that most of college debt is funded by the government. Right. And so it's a major source of cash flow for them. And power.
Dude, that's all.
Power.
It's a result of like old school just lobbying that made student debt unforgivable so that they could just, fucking put
the
everybody.
Result of fiat money, baby.
Dude, it's just crazy. Like, when I was like 18, I remember I was actually 17. I watched this YouTube video called The College Conspiracy, and that inspired me not to go to college. And they made it was like an hour-long video making all these arguments, interviewing all these people that were in debt. And one of the arguments that I remember stuck out to me is like, even if you go to a trade school and come out of trade school making like 40 grand a year, by the time someone would have graduated from college, you would have already made 160 grand, and they're now negative like 50 to 100 grand. So that, like, even if they make more money starting out of college, which at this point, like, they really don't, then you're still starting behind the 8 ball.
Well, and let's assume college was, because my argument is, before we figure out how to pay for it, let's see if college is worth it. Right? Before we figure out how to pay for it. Right? So I'm going to go and I'm going to say, I have to decide whether I'm going to spend not just, hey, is this education a good use of what I want to learn, but is it a good use of my time, right? Because 4 years is a long time, especially when you're 18 to 22 years old. Those are golden years, right? Those are years to take risks, to opportunity. You get doors open because you're 18, 19, 20. I remember one time I went and I wanted to own a hardware store, right, at one point. And so my parents always taught me, they're like, if you want something, go for it, right? My parents weren't great with money, but they were great at instilling self-confidence and hard work and taking action and taking risks, like go, right? So I went to own a hardware store. And so we lived like an hour away from the headquarters of Do It Best, right? I write a letter to the president of Do It Best Hardware. And I was like, hey, I think I was like 19 at the time, 18 at the time. I'm like, hey, I'm 18 years old. I want to learn about hardware, right? I would love to sit down, get a meeting with you and just learn the ins and outs of what it is. Go down, drive down, hand it off to the secretary or whatever. So I go back like 2 or 3 times and I'm like, hey, did you deliver that? Hey, did you deliver that? Like, who's doing that, right? That gets done. I go, he responds to me. He's like, yeah, come on down, no problem. So I go, I get to sit down. I'm like, why did you, my last question to him, I have like a 2-hour meeting with him. He's telling me all the, I'm like, hey, why did you give me the time of day and let me come down here? He's like, because you're an 18-year-old trying to figure out life. I want to help you out. Right? Yeah. Guess what? If I'm 25, 30 years old, I write that letter, I'm probably not getting that opportunity.
It's kind of creepy. When you see a dude who's like 35 and like hasn't had any success yet, you're like, what are you doing?
What are you doing, right? And so I look at it and I go, okay, there are certain limited fields that require me to go to college. No question. Lawyers, doctors, right? Those are probably the 2 big ones, right? Maybe some scientists, maybe some engineering stuff. But like for most people,
Bill's mom's an engineer. She doesn't even have a college degree.
Okay, so you don't even need college for that. But like, there's the 2 major ones that always argument are doctor, lawyer, right? You need those 2
doctor,
things,
lawyer,
right?
yeah.
Which is like what 0.02% of the population.
So now I go, okay, let me take any other career that I want to get into. Where am I going to go learn more? Am I going to go learn more by actually going into the industry, going into the field, understanding my goal is not to find a long-term job. I'm not looking for a career. I'm looking to understand the field from the School of Hard Knocks, right? Getting an internship, working for minimum wage. I'm making nothing and going into debt in college, right? Or, well, for not paying for it yet, but like, I'm going to either sit in the classroom or I'm going to sit in the real world. I'm going to meet connections. I'm going to go to all those things, right? With the exception of going to like Ivy League schools. Like if you get to go to Harvard and your dad's paying for it, great, because you're going to meet the next, freaking investors in Facebook and things of that nature. Connections are great. But for the average person, it makes no sense because not only are you going into debt, but forget that for a second. You're actually better off going into the industry that you want to get into, learning from the people that are actually doing it, finding real problems. And once you have a real problem, now you have an advantage of everybody else coming out of school, right? And so what my parents taught me, and I think this is incredible advice, and I think it's probably like if you could fix one problem in America, well, it'd be fathers, right? Fathers need to step up. That's the number one problem in America, right? You fix America, fix the fathers. Okay, but individual is confidence. If you would instill confidence in every 18-year-old kid to go out there and tell them it is okay to take risks, it is okay to fail, they're going to remember that at 20, at 25, I'm 28, right? I have all the confidence in the world, sometimes too much, right? And so what failing and going out there and talking to these people taught me was how to have confidence. And my parents said, hey, would you rather bet on somebody else or bet on yourself? I'm like, I'd rather bet on me 100% every single time. Yeah. So that's why I hate college.
Yeah.
I think by the way, I'll go on record. I think college is the biggest scam in the world for like 95% of people.
Yeah. I think I told you guys both this story of like my breaking point of college was when at this time I had my digital marketing agency. I was doing like $50K a month just by myself and a couple other players on my team. But I had to go to class and it was an in-person marketing, my first marketing class. I get in there and I'm sitting in the back and I'm on my laptop, just like, acting like I'm taking notes, but I'm actually working on my agency. And the teacher's like, back there. Yeah, Philip, you want to share a little bit about yourself? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, stand up. And I stand up and I'm like, yeah. So like I'm the quarterback of the team here at St. Anselm College, which was a private college in the Northeast. Basically they call it a baby Ivy League. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this is a baby Ivy League. He's like, yeah. So go ahead and share about yourself. I was like, yeah. I'm the quarterback of the team. I also have my own digital marketing agency. And he was like, oh, marketing. He's like, you should teach the class. I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, cool. Do you have any questions, about the curriculum or any questions for me? I was like, yeah, like what did you do in terms of like marketing? Like, how did you even get into become a marketing teacher? He's like, oh, I did accounting. I was like, The fuck?
Like, that's what I'm talking about. And so, like, I am insanely pro education.
Yeah.
I'm so against college. I've spent, we tallied up. I did my numbers with the account. It's like $254,000 I've spent on coaching. 254 grand, like trackable, tax deductible receipts, right? Of what I've spent on coaches and consultants, right? To teach me about what it is. But I'm learning from someone that is doing it. I'm paying Brunson to learn marketing, right? I'm paying Sam Ovens. I'm paying people that are actually doing what it is that I'm wanting to learn how to do, not someone that's doing it in a classroom.
Yeah, this guy literally had like the second day, he had like a presentation up, and we're talking about direct consumers. He was like, okay, so here's direct consumers. And he had like the definition up, and I'm like, you just Googled that and copied and pasted onto a slide. Yeah. Like this is what teachers can do. They just like, let's put a curriculum together. I'm in accounting, marketing's not that hard to teach. I'll just find definitions and explain it to the class. And then you take a test. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
And I also think the other thing is that, college, they're like, oh, you can find yourself and figure out life and everything like that. I think that's important, right? So far, we've talked about the first half of my life. It's more than that, right? But up until, I was like 24, 25 years old, I thought I was one thing, right? And I was, confidence, yeah, go. Like, I'm going to go change the world, make $1 million, blah, blah, blah. I had no idea who the heck I was, right? And so when you are at a very moldable age, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, right? The people that you surround yourself with are going to seriously impact the remaining of your life, right? And so if you go to a school where everyone around you there does not have the same goals that you do, most of them don't, right? Where everyone there wants to party or wants to go hook up or wants to go get a job and a career, right? And you're an entrepreneur or you want to go and, start your own thing. Or why would you surround yourself with those people? Because they're going to force that thinking of you, right? I'm a big Christian, right? Unique Christian, I would say, but definitely religious, definitely believe in Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And like it talks about in the Bible, like study the children, right? Well, if you look at children are full of imagination, right? They're full of questions. They're full of curiosity, right? It's like, I want to go test things and understand things. I want to play with stuff. I want to put it in my mouth. I want to taste it. I want to feel it. I just want to do all this stuff, right? And then you go to this college and they're like, do nothing but figure out how to take this test.
Yeah.
Right? You get an A if you know how to get the answer right. There's or limited creativity in that, right?
Yep.
And so not only are you killing a lot of the creativity and you're killing a lot of what goes on to help you develop, but then you're surrounding yourself with people that are not in alignment with what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
And so, so many people come out of college having no idea who they are and no idea what they want to do.
Well, it starts with high school, because I feel like 90% of the people that go to college 90% of people that go to college, number one, it could be social pressure of like, oh, all of my friends got accepted to college and they're going to college and I'm not. Or it's your family of like, you got to go to college, you got to do this. So part of it is social pressure. Another reason is people just like, they think that they won't have a social life anymore. They want to party. They want to make friends. They want to do all this stuff when in reality.
Hot girls.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know a lot of people from my high school that went to, I'm going to Arizona State, Arizona University because I just want to party.
Yep, 100%.
And then 2 years later, they get kicked out because they're failing. It's like, what was the point of wasting your money going there? Like you could party, you could go to the club and party if you want to go party.
Or you could just move down there and go hang out at all college parties.
Exactly.
Not go to college and start your own thing.
Exactly.
And I will say, I think that's a really good point though.
Yeah.
Because I didn't go to high school. I was homeschooled, right? I did high school, but at home, right? I was my only classmate. My teacher was my mom. Like, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? And so
True.
I got out of that and I was already used to being like kind of this loner that everyone thought was nuts anyway, right? Because I didn't have friends. You know what I mean? And so I got in the world and I was just like, I want to go make something of myself. And so, I think that going through that experience of, being homeschooled in a very secluded small town, like, yeah, it has its drawbacks and like, yeah, it like might not be the perfect life, but it served me super well because it avoided so much of the indoctrination that I think happens in society today.
Yeah.
And now, after Kyle died, my whole life changed, right? After that's my older brother, right? And, after that happened, like my whole life changed, my identity changed, who I was changed. I refound God because, like, entrepreneurship is a religion in a sense, right? Like it can very easily become, you know what I'm saying? Success.
Yeah. Yeah. People spend I think about myself, like when I'm just heavy and like trying to scale my business, it's all I do. It's all I think about. It's all I talk about. And it's like nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
It's literally just business.
Right.
Yeah. Like we'll wake up, go work out. While we're working out, we're talking about how to scale this thing. We get to the office, we're working, we're still talking about how to scale this thing. we'll eat dinner. We're still talking about how to skeleton. Go to sleep, do it again the next day.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons why I wanted hobbies. Like I want to fly. I want to like have a cool car. I want to like do jiu-jitsu and shit. Because if not, I just become like this one-dimensional ass person. And when I do hang out with people that don't have businesses, it's like I don't know what the fuck to talk to them about or how to relate to them at all.
Yeah.
It's like weird.
Yeah.
It is.
And then you're
like,
like,
a little bit
criticism.
uncomfortable sometimes. You're like, damn, like.
Because then also too, like I notice like how open we are with like talking about money and our numbers, and the average person is not like that. So
they won't even tell you their salary.
Yeah. So if we tell, like, if we say like, oh, we made like $300K this month or whatever, the average person is gonna think like you're bragging, you're an
you
asshole,
egotistical
like,
a-hole, right?
Yeah,
100%.
or like you're lying or something like that. Whereas like that's just normal conversation for us.
100%.
So
for us, we take it like, oh shit, like I'm not doing $300K a month. That's possible. This other entrepreneur's doing it. Yeah. But in reality, it's like, oh, why are you bragging about that? Like, that's not something you should be sharing about.
Yeah.
So
So I wanna talk about making money now.
Let's talk about it.
And so give everybody like a 60-second breakdown. Because we know you're a talker. So a 60-second breakdown of
60 seconds.
What exactly it is that you do.
I sell high ticket. Make people $100,000 in a day.
Perfect. Now, next question. What has been your biggest launch? And I want to dive into that.
Myself personally?
No, like that you've done for yourself or for a client or whoever.
Probably like $480,000 in like 3 days.
Okay, and what was that
and
product?
Then a longer launch was probably like $1 million in like 3 months.
What was the 480K?
Yeah, is it 450 or 480? I can't remember.
In 3 days?
Yeah, it was like 3 days of.
What were you selling?
Coaching, but financial coaching.
Was this the tax?
Yep.
The tax client guy that you had?
Yeah. I don't want to get into too many details of like specifically who's.
Okay,
it's not
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
so
it was financial. It was financial related coaching. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what went? Okay, when somebody hears like 480K in 3 days, how much would you think was netted on that?
Quite a bit, actually. I think we did. I don't know back end costs. I don't know how what their whole fulfillment is, but I know a lot of it was profit. I think we did total. Trying to think with ads, graphics team, commissions, everything like that. I probably put $50,000 in up front.
Okay, so what do you think went right with that launch?
The messaging and story was on point. Super great offer. To the right audience. Really, the story though, the messaging and then the environment that was created. It's why launches work so effectively. Is when you are able to put someone in a state of mind that makes them feel like buying, while solving a genuine pain, a genuine problem that they have, not a made up one, right? And you solve that problem and show them how they can get to it with the vehicle, and then that offer matches perfectly, right?
So the pain was like, I have all this money I don't know what to do with, and I'm paying too much taxes.
No. It wasn't a tax offer. It was a financial offer. So it's essentially investing, right? But it was retirement based, right? So we was actually, and by the way, everyone's like, oh, it's great if you're selling to entrepreneurs, right? Well, guess what? These were not. These were 9 to 5 employees, right? They're 9 to 5 employees who have a job, married, right? Financial stress, retirement's not working out, right? And they're looking at their numbers, they're looking at their 401k, they're looking at retirement vehicle, and they're like, this is not working, right? I am on track to be way, way, way short. We have a dumbass president, right? Time, all right. So like, you know what I'm saying? And so we come in and we say, hey, look, good old Russell Brunson, opportunity switch, right? And so we're like, hey, you're in legitimate pain here. We want to acknowledge that, right? Because like, here's the thing about marketing. Here's what went right. I understand, and the people that I was working with, right, were very coachable in this. And then like, once I can like show them this, they were like, oh, we know how to do that. And they were killer at it. They understood how to relate to their customer. They didn't come in and be like, I'm so great, buy from me. Right? I have this magic solution for everything. Mm-hmm. They came and acknowledged the fact that these people were genuinely trying. You're like, hey, you've been following the rules, man. Right? But we as marketers, especially entrepreneurs, right? We think we're so great, right? We think we can talk down to people, or we think we have all the magic answers or whatever. They're like, look, we don't know how to solve everything, but like, let's acknowledge the fact that like right now, you've been trying, right? Like you're doing the right things. You went to school, you got a job, you listened to what the banks told you to do, you maxed out your 401ks, and it's not working, right? We've been there. And then one of the guys, right? Like he had a story that was so similar to that, right? And so what made the people buy was creating an environment where they could get away from all the noise of the world, right? Because who wants to spend I think the offer, there was the front end offer was $3,000, the back end offer was 18, right? Who wants to spend $18,000 if they don't feel like spending it? If they don't feel respected, if they don't feel like it's for them, right? We get all logical, but like marketing and sales and serving is a game of emotion, right? So when you can create an environment, and I want to go off on a tangent here, so bad about energy and all of that, right? But like we live in physical bodies connected to a spiritual world, right? There's this emotional, tension here. People buy, they make decisions, they make everything based off of emotion, right? So when you can connect with someone and say, hey, look, I know you've legitimately tried. I know that this isn't your fault, right? You've been lied to. It's cool, right? Let me show you a different way. And then come in, and as Eileen Wiley, she's one of my coaches. She's, amazing. We're speaking at Funnel Hacking Live as well. Shout out Eileen, right? She goes, hey, the energy that you have to have when you're making an offer is buy or buy, baby. I'm good. Or buy or don't buy, baby. I'm good, right? Mm-hmm. If we're needy of that money, if we're needy of that, no one's going to want to buy, right? But we came
Commission breath.
Right. Huh?
Commission breath.
Right. So I come up to them and I create an environment, I create an experience that allows them to come in and go, oh, it's okay to be in pain. It's okay. There's people like me, right? Now all of a sudden it's like, well, what's your solution?
Dude, I've always thought about this, and I'm like, some of the best people to sell to are people that have done all the right things and still didn't get the intended result. Because I think like
that's a wake
the
up call for them.
35-year-old father of 4 who's in this like has to wake up at 6 a.m. in this like life that he hates is probably more miserable and frustrated than like a dude doing like 25 to life. Because the dude doing 25 to life, he knows that he was doing the wrong things and got a shitty result.
Yeah.
But the guy that's like fucking put on the whole corporate show and went to college and had kids and got the white picket fence and got a mortgage and all this shit and wakes up every morning and is frustrated, like that guy's in serious fucking pain.
Well, and so I teach people how to have 6-figure paydays, make more in a day than most people make in a year, right? I also know my niche. I sell non-physical products, okay? Coaching and consulting. Here's the key to selling non-physical products, coaching and consulting specifically. When you're selling information, right? You are inviting someone to become more than what they are right now. That is what you're inviting someone to do, right? And so if I come in and I say, and I can do this with money, I can do this with relationship, I can do this with health, doesn't matter the industry, right? Everyone's like, oh, money is easy. Let's use relationships, for example, right? If I can come to you and let's say I have a program that teaches people how to have better marriage, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You have to be more sex, better communication, whatever, right? And I come to you and I'm like, you need more sex. You want better sex. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I might, but also like, not really a huge selling point for me. Like this, oh yeah, I can go get that from anywhere. I can go hook up with it, right? But if I come to you and I'm like, look, I see you for who you are, and I'm inviting you to unlock a part of you that you didn't know is even there. Right. And I'll never forget this. And I'm going to tell a real personal story here. Right. So my brother passed away in a helicopter crash. Right. And messes up my whole life. Right. So I sell the company, my portion of it, whatever, travel around the world. I'm living off the savings at the time. We prepaid for 4 months of hotels, Airbnbs, everything. Cause like over there, you prepay it all, like big discounts. Right. Prepaid for 4 months. My girlfriend and I, she's my wife now. Right. We get over there 2.5 months, 2.5 months into this. She gets sick with an intestinal eating parasite. Right? So now my whole life is messed up because my brother just died. I have no idea who I am. I'm wrestling with God. I don't have income. I'm living off savings. We're overseas. She has an intestinal eating parasite. So now I have to get her home. $10,000 a ticket.
Oh, this is in Thailand, right?
Yeah, Philippines.
Philippines,
right? Yeah. $10,000 a ticket. Now, up until this point, I've managed 6 million followers on social media, right? I've made my clients millions of dollars. I've been featured. I've spoken on stages or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden, $20,000 worth of hotels and stuff. I missed out on 2 months worth of living expenses. Already paid for. I don't get that. $20,000 on flights home. There's 40,000 gone just like that. And I'm looking at like $8,000 left in my business bank account. And I'm flying back home to America with a girlfriend who has an intestinal eating parasite. What the frick, right? And I get home. I spend Christmas in the basement of my girlfriend's mom's house. And I ask myself, how did I get here? Right? Like rewind life a year ago and I was on top of the world. My business doing $70,000 a month. Right. And now I'm here. And, I don't want to make it sound like I was completely broke because like trying to tell the truth. I had like personal savings, right? But my business at $8,000, right?
Yeah.
And so I get there and I decide I need to hire a coach. I love coaches, right? Changed my life. I get on the phone with all these coaches. Everyone's like, oh, we got this funnel system. It's going to help you make a bunch of money. We have this offer thing. We're going to help you sell more. We're going to help you this, all that or whatever, right? And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell I want. What am I doing? Right? And anybody that's ever been there in that situation of just complete chaos, knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're like, who am I? Where am I going? What is going on?
Yep.
And I get on the phone with Katie Richardson, right? And Katie Richardson goes and she goes, Josh, tell me about Josh. And I start talking about the business and all this. She said, no, talk to me about you, right? And so I start telling her, she said, no, talk to me about you. So I started telling her about me and my childhood and how I grew up and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And Katie goes, and now keep in mind, I got $8,000 in my bank account. I'm willing to spend $25,000. I got a line of credit. Boom, cool. I can spend $25,000. Katie looks at me and goes, Josh, I can help you. I'm like, sweet, awesome. What's your offer? Like, what do you do? Are you gonna help me with my business skill, whatever? And she's like, I'm going to help you unlock a version of you that you don't even know exists yet. And I'm like, okay. She's like, Josh, you have so much potential inside of you. You can go out and have greatness inside of you. You can be the leader. You can be the man that God has called you to be. But right now, you got to get out of your own way and you don't know how to do that. I can help you do that because you have greatness. No one had ever spoken to me like that before. I was ready. I was a buyer. I had money to spend. Nobody was convincing me to buy. And then she comes along and is like, hey, I can help you become somebody new. And I was like, okay, how much are you? $60,000, right? Guess who I ended up buying? Her.
Did you piff?
Right? That what?
Did you painful?
No, I didn't pay full. No,
Okay.
I couldn't. I put down everything
I
I
was
could.
gonna say,
No.
That's a nice piff.
Yeah.
No. But I didn't have 60 grand.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but why do I tell that story? Because Katie spoke directly to who I was and saw me for who I am in a way nobody else did. And I remember that story because I didn't have 60 grand and I spent it. And by the way, 4 months later, I made $150,000 in a week, more money than I ever made in a week before in my whole life. Right? Why? Because somebody spoke to me at a level that made me feel understood. Right? Alex Hormozi talks about this. We know this, right? If you want people to think you're smart, make them understand. If you want people to give you money, make them feel understood. Right? And so there I go, and I ended up paying Katie Richardson $100,000, right? That's how much I pay her, and paid 100 actual tax receipts, right? $100,000. That woman changed my life. So I took that same principle, and I was like, maybe I should stop selling features of my product. Maybe I should stop selling deliverables, and maybe I should just understand who the heck I'm talking to and make them realize that I understand what they're after. You know what my people are after? My people are not after the people I sell to, and this is an important distinction. My people are not after trying to build their business. People are like, what do you mean? You sell to entrepreneurs. Right. I don't know how to build a business. I've never done it. I mean, I have, but I'm not an expert at it, right? But I know how to sell things and I know how to do a lot in a little bit of time. What people that I sell to want is they want options. They want the freedom that money buys so they can figure their shit out, right? And so they have a skill set, they have a talent, and they feel underpaid. They feel underappreciated, right? And they're like, why am I not getting the recognition? Why is it that somebody has a worse product than I do, getting paid way more money than I am, right? Why are they so successful when I'm over-delivering with my clients, when I spend more time with all this stuff, whatever, right? And I'm like, because you're trying to sell features and not speaking directly to them, right? And I understand that about my people. And so when I come in and when I speak to them, I don't go, imagine how awesome it's going to feel when you've got 50 employees and can exit your company for $10 million. I go, imagine how good it can feel when you can do anything you want on a daily basis within reason and not have to look at the price tag. Imagine when you can take your wife, girlfriend, husband, whatever, on vacation anywhere you want in the country without thinking about it. Imagine what it's going to be like when you're completely out of debt and you can make options not out of scarcity but in abundance all the time. People don't talk to them like that, right? And so when I get on the phone with people, you know what? Out of all the sales calls that we've done, only one person has ever asked about the actual features of the product, right? They're like, well, do we get this? This is it. Every single other person is like, Josh, will it help me get X? And they give me something that they're after, some emotional reason that they're after it. Will it help me do it? I'm like, yes, right? And they buy every time. Make sense? So why launches go so well, how you make a lot of money in a short period of time is that you understand that we are not, decision-making and energy and how people make decisions is not in the physical reality, right? It's a game up here and this is up here. I say we live in 3 worlds, right? The first world we live in is the physical world. Well, technically reversed. First world we live in is the spiritual world. The second world we live in is the mental world. The third world we live in is the physical world. Only one of them is bound by time. Okay? The physical world is bound by time. The other 2 worlds, time doesn't exist, right? And so when you're making decisions, if you're speaking to logical people, and trying to use logic, you are trying to operate in this realm, in this world. And guess what? My bank account says $12,000 left and I've got $32,000 in debt and I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. Logic doesn't add, right? But if I can speak to someone at an emotional level, if I can call them to become somebody else, to be called somebody bigger, make them feel something that somebody else has not made them feel, then all of a sudden, ethical. We have to have an actual solution. We can't just sell crap.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but if you actually have a solution, then all of a sudden you're inviting them to say, step up, become someone new. I'm going to recognize you for who you are. And at the core, I believe, of all human beings, every single human being wants to be understood, no matter who you are, right? And if you can speak to someone in a way that makes them feel understood, tied to an outcome that they're after, they'll give you any amount of money you want. That was a tangent. But
that was a tangent.
Here we are.
Dude, but I was hooked. I was listening the entire time.
You see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, 100%. And just a side note, so we've had you on here. We had other people on here that started off with coaching and courses. We had a lot of other people on here that started off with coaching courses. And there will probably still be people in the comments saying, well, courses and coaching is a scam. So you had a coach that completely changed your life.
Yeah.
And you're here also coaching people how to make 6-figure days, which a lot of people will say, no way. What do you have to say to that? And what is your comment on that?
Never seen Josh speechless.
I know. I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer this. When you get down to the core of what humans are, you realize that. Actually, let me give an analogy. I want you to rewind time.
Okay.
Before YouTube.
Okay.
Before the internet. Before any of these things. Why was college so ridiculously valuable? Why? Like, was college the epitome, going back to college? Why was
it was like the only place you can go to pay for information.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Right? So if you wanted to have a better life, you needed higher education. Right? Now, so the problem that was faced there was a lack. Right? I couldn't because there was lack. Now the situation is reversed. Now I can get anything for free on YouTube, on Google, all of it. So now a new problem has taken place, which is what?
Too much information.
Too much information. I don't know how to do what? I don't know how to make decisions, right? I don't know what's right, what's wrong, right? What people fail to realize is that when you sell coaching, you are not selling information. You are selling certainty. That is what you're selling. You're selling a system. And so when you come in and you say, hey, look, you can sit around and you can go watch all the information for free on YouTube. You can go find all of this. The problem with that is that there's no certainty there because it's everywhere. Every single different person will have every single different piece of information, right? Make sense?
Yep.
So if I'm going to go and transform someone's life, you know why I sell high ticket? High ticket, $25,000, right? Not, well, people are like, I sell high ticket, $2,000 product. I'm like, right? $25,000. Why? Money, tangent again, but this is important. Money is energy. Okay? This is why the US government right now is so powerful because they can just print it. It's like printing energy. Imagine you just had a generator that just printed electricity all the time, unlimited amounts, right? You'd be a very rich dude, right? That's what the government has just in paper dollar form.
Yep.
Okay? Why is money energy? I'll try to make this super quick, right? You grow back at the beginning of time. You grow apples, I raise chickens, right? You want to go buy a house from somebody else that does houses. Well, they don't want apples. They want chickens. Well, then you have to trade with me, and then you got to go trade with them, but they don't want a bunch of chickens. So there's this problem, right? Well, it took you energy to raise the apples, take care of it. Yep. Take you energy. Took me energy to raise this. Took them energy to build the house, right? So rather than having energy and saving this energy in something that rots, aka apples rot, right? So apples are energy, right? Then they rot. My chickens are energy. They would rot. They'd go bad, right? We formed this thing called called dollars, right? And so now we have money, which we agree upon is this means for exchange, but it's a representation of energy. Make sense? We're tracking on this, right? So cool. So I go and I say, if I know that money is energy and I know that we as humans are energy, right? If I get your full focus, we all know the power of focus. We all know the power of making a decision. We all know the power of understanding that if I want to change my life, I have to have a very clear, definite chief aim. I can't get distracted, right? Why? Because the more energy, the more focus I put on something, the better the result I'm going to have. Yes? Okay. So here's what I do. I come along and I say, hey, what is it that you actually want? You want a $100,000 a day? Awesome. It's going to cost you a lot of energy. It's not easy to get there. But I can't guarantee you a result, right? I can't make sure that I'm actually get you where you want to go if you're distracted, if you're all over the place. So if the only amount of energy that you're going to give up for me is $1,000, that's this much energy, right? And now you're only going to feel this much energy pain, and then I'm going to give you a solution. Are you going to value that? No. So the information is worthless to you. Why? Because you don't value it, right?
Yep.
You with me? So what I do is I say, pay me $25,000 worth of energy. I want you in enough pain that you cut off everything else and give me your full time attention and energy, right? And that same person that paid $1,000 for it will not get the result that someone that paid $25,000 for the same exact information. Why? Because the energy that they exuded to get that was only $1,000 worth of energy. Their focus is elsewhere, right? Yeah. So the reason that we sell, going back to your original question, full circle with courses and consulting, is the reason that this is not a scam. Now, there's so many scams out there.
Yeah.
Of course, there's scams there, but there's scams everywhere. I mean, the US dollar is pretty much a scam, right? But like, there's scams everywhere.
I mean, college is a scam.
College is a scam, right? Like, college is education, right? So what happens is that if you think as a seller, if you think that you're just selling information, then yeah, you're scamming people because that's not what you're selling. But what I have done is I have shortcutted the time it takes me to get a result, right? So Stacey and Paul Martino, they have had like 20,000 students go through their relationship U program, right? How to save their marriage. 99.3% have stayed together. Only 0.07% have gotten a divorce.
Wow.
Okay?
I've heard that, but I've always wondered if that was an embellished stat.
Okay, call it 90%. Okay? So 90% of the people that go through are going to save their marriage, whatever it is. I'm now shortcutting the time. I'm saving that person all this pain. Why? Not because I get videos. They can go watch it online. But because I am now taking my energy and I'm saying, no, I'm pulling energy from this. I'm giving this focus and I'm buying a system, a shortcut to get to the result that I want, right? It would have taken me decades of my life to learn what Katie Richardson taught me in a year and a half. Cost me $100,000. It saved me 20 years, right? So can it be a scam? Yes. But you should also only buy courses and coaching from people that have what you want, right? Myron Golden, just a next level dude, right? Like one of his favorite things is if you want to have massive success in life, find somebody that has exactly what you want. Pay them whatever they want to learn it and do everything that they say. That's the fastest way to have success. So courses and coaching is not that it's something that no one else could teach you. Very, 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 very rarely is that the case, right? Courses and coaching are a shortcut to get what you want because you value your time more than you value money.
Yeah, I was just watching this TikTok today, and this guy was like, yeah, I was talking to this guy who had stage 4 colon cancer, and he wanted to buy like an automated like Amazon store or some shit because he was going to die soon. And he was trying to put his money into things that would be automated to take care of his family. And the guy was like, I don't have a lot of time. I'm dying soon, basically.
Yeah.
So then he gets off the call with him, and the guy goes, he texts him, and he's like, spend money to buy time back as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And
that's coaching and consulting right there.
And I was like, fuck, I need to schedule a weekly house cleaner.
Coaching and consulting, weekly house cleaner, basically the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, so
solve different problems.
You think Trump's going to win 2024?
No. Not unless he gets all of his people in the midterms.
The reason I ask is because Josh is a hardcore
huge Trump
Trumper, conservative, probably the most conservative person I know.
I'm very libertarian. I just like what Trump did for America.
Okay, that's not my perception.
No.
Watching on the outside, looking in.
Well, yeah, because it's Facebook. That's distorted. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Engagement, baby. Like, I don't do it all for engagement, but like, dude, if you took my posts at face value and just read them, and then you put them next to my posts with all the comments that come on them, they're two different posts. It's ridiculous. It's wild, right? But no, I believe in personal freedom. I believe the government should basically say I have everything. I believe that in summarized version of why I like Trump, the U.S. government is out of control. Out of control. It is the most corrupt, out of control thing, and we are past the point of no return. America's past the point of saving in its current system, right? It has to fall, right? So, do I want super corrupt people that I have no idea what's going on? Joe Biden's not leading this country, right? We have no idea who's running the country. Or
bro, he's not even leading his own fucking body,
right?
At this
Like
point.
he can't even. He's just a dead man. They shoot him up with drugs and boom, and it talks. Then he goes to sleep, right? But here's the thing. Trump, even Trevor Noah and like Jimmy Kimmel, right? These are the people that they hate Trump. They're like, hey, Trump is the first president in history that did exactly what he said he was going to do, right? So like, I like Trump. Trump is an asshole for sure. He's egotistical. He's not a good role model. He's not someone you want to be like. 100%, all the things. I get it. From a morality standpoint, beat every single step. But I'm like, do you see what we're working with here? We're talking about the most corrupt system in history, right? Yes, I think Trump is a good option.
So when you say that that America's falling, what exactly do you mean by that?
America was built on the idea of personal freedom. That was the idea, personal religious freedom. right? That idea is going away. And the system that we created to ensure that is broken beyond repair. I believe that. Now, some people are like, democracy and the Constitution. And I'm like, I think the Constitution is a good document. I think we would love to abide by the Constitution. But like, there's no law and order in this country in politics, right? Like, it's whoever's in power does that. And so what I say is the world or the system is just in this massive, massive, massive bubble. The only reason the United States has as much power as it is because it's the reserve currency of the world, right? Once that's gone, it's game over, right? Until that happens, lots of power. But once that happens, it's going to collapse. And so when I see all these conservatives and I see all these people, and by the way, like I make fun of conservatives too, right? I'm not a fan of Republicans, right? Republicans suck almost as much as the Democrats do, right? I don't think Trump is really a Republican, right?
Dude, he's okay. He was from fucking New York and like lived there his entire life.
Right. He was a registered Democrat for a while, right?
But the second he was like, oh, if I flip to this side, I could become the president. He was like, all right, fuck it.
Trump isn't a Republican. He's not Trump has one thing in mind: make Trump win. Right. That's all that Trump cares about. It just so happens that what Trump wants makes what I believe America to be better. Right. So you look at that and I go, all these conservatives that are like, we need to get back to our roots of blah, 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 and all that. I'm like, do you see the system? Like, do you see what's happening? Like, go study the money for a second. Go study the debt. Go see how it's all structured. Like, you are not in control. You don't have personal freedoms anymore, or very, very rare. It's like why I like Bitcoin so much, right? So I believe the system, just this printing money and healthcare and everybody feeding off of the government and the government just having the biggest amount of guns, right? That's the only reason they are in power, right? They got the guns. They can just kill you. They can just send the FBI to raid your home, right? Even if you're a president, right?
That
like,
shit
what
was
the
crazy.
heck?
That
What
shit was
on
crazy.
earth, right? So you have this system that's so ridiculously corrupt, right? And I go, well, it's got to come down, right? Trump was the first person that came in and was like, screw all this, drain the swamp, blah, blah. And I was like, yes, my emotions. Yes, speak to me, right? Boom, I loved it all. And so I think that Trump did so much damage to the establishment, to the system. That's why they had to get rid of him, right? So listen, if Trump runs again, great. I'm going to support him. Heck yeah. Do I think he's the best fit for the country? Nope. Do I think he's going to actually win in 2024? If he gets his guys in, maybe. But I doubt he's going to get.
Do you think
in.
America will be demoted to number 2 status in our lifetime?
Probably.
Economic status, I would say.
Well, I mean, China's on the verge, but they're on a collapse too. Probably. I mean, life's long.
Dude, so have you seen the shit Ray Dalio's been saying about all this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I watched his like 45-minute like manifesto on like the decline of the U.S. empire, and he said that countries, same thing you said, like the world reserve currency is what we have going for us right now. But he goes through the history of every country who's had world reserve currency and how that's kind of gone away. And he's like, no country ever gives up world reserve currency without a fight.
Yeah.
So usually they're very turbulent times.
Yeah.
So for me personally, there's this guy I follow. He's a master marketer. Like he's like the best person I've seen at selling his thing. The website is sovereignman.com.
Okay.
But basically, it's all about like being a sovereign man, like
100%.
Having a plan B. Yeah, that's part of it.
Plan Bitcoin.
So the first thing he has is like he has like a list of like 5 things you should do right away. Have like physical cash, have physical gold, get a second passport.
I don't have a passport.
All this shit, right? So I've been reading it, and my buddy George, he got me into all this shit too, and because he thinks like the U.S. is going to decline in our lifetime. Yeah. And he sent me this article the other day that was like, it's a good like 45-minute read, all about how like these top people in Silicon Valley, like the CEO of Reddit, they're doomsday preppers, and they do make a case of like, well, if you're a billionaire, and it costs you $10 million to be like readily prepared for the end of the world, why wouldn't you do it? Because it's like insurance, even if there's a 1% chance it'll happen. So I started thinking about that probably like a year ago. Yeah. And I've started to learn all these skills and just start doing things to just have a little bit of preparation for if the US does decline and go through turbulent times. Number one, like I'm applying for my Dominican citizenship.
Oh, really?
Yeah, by birthright, because both my parents were born there. So I'm literally in the process right now. I got a lawyer. She's working on it. It's really easy, honestly, because if your parents
are born there,
if your parents are born somewhere,
I
honestly think everybody could do it. Everybody,
really? I'll have to look into it.
Wherever your parents were born, chances are you can get a passport from there by birthright. And
My
if your parents were born
in America, baby,
or where were your grandparents from?
Grandparents were born in America.
Oh, okay, you're fucked.
My great grandparents I have a whole family lineage. I could go back and look, but it's been generations.
He was like, "Yo, go get your Vietnam
bro, do you see
passport."
me on
Yeah,
white,
so that's
on
one
white.
thing. I mean, so for me, I'm like, okay.
You're like,
one-
I'm here to get a Dominican passport.
I'd like to claim citizenship for this country. Do you see my skin? Do you not see my skin?
Nah, so I mean, there's different countries, obviously.
Yeah.
But and there's ways you can do it through investment. But especially with COVID, seeing how governments could just flip the switch on travel.
Like,
I could be like, well,
that.
I'm a citizen of the Dominican Republic, so I'm getting the fuck out of here. So, second passport, 1. 2 is physical, like gold, like investing in gold. There's companies that'll hold it for you, whatever.
Bitcoin's better.
Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Number 3.
But like, the whole thing of there's companies that'll hold it for you for gold. Cool.
They could go out. Yeah, if
the company collapses, the government goes, don't issue anything, or we'll kill you.
Right now, gold's like what, 1,800 an ounce.
I have no idea. I don't buy gold. I buy Bitcoin.
You could buy yeah, but in the end of the world, Bitcoin is also going to be fucking worthless because it has zero utility value. Gold is used in electronics, it's used in medicine, it's used as jewelry. Like it has uses. It's used in aviation. So if we're rebuilding a civilization, I think at that point, gold, like Bitcoin's going to be fucking worthless because you can't do shit with it.
Gold, I very much disagree, but that's all right.
Okay, but it's just like money. Money's going to be worthless if there's the end of the fucking world. Like alcohol, physical bottled alcohol will be more valuable than Bitcoin and money in the end of the world, my opinion.
Okay. Possibly. Yeah, I mean, alcohol much more than gold.
Okay, why?
For sure. Because the problem that Bitcoin solves, like, technology is not going away, right? Like, we need technology. So even if everything collapses, like, what I think people, this is my opinion, right? So do your own research. But my opinion is like, people think that the big entities are governments. But what we fail to realize is that some of the largest entities and most powerful entities in the world are not governments.
Companies.
Amazon, Facebook, right? Google. It's not like these companies are going to be like, well, okay, I guess we're going to war, so we're just going to shut down. The government says no. Like, technological infrastructure is here. And even in times of war, if you go back and study war, right? Like, a lot of these things stayed open to the level that they could back in those times, right? And so now you have Starlink. You have internet that's about to be available around the world, in every corner of the world, everywhere, and it's already up. There's already happening, right? So, did you know that more people in this world have a smartphone that have access to clean water?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
is that actually true?
100%. I've looked at.
Hold on.
Fact check me. Go for it. No problem.
Fact check me.
100%. No problem. Right? Now, okay, but here's the thing. So, more people have a smartphone because there's so many of them, right? So when you have technological infrastructure, right, and you have the ability to use those things, so yes, the end of the world might go down, but guess what? What does Bitcoin do that is fundamentally different than gold? What's Bitcoin's value prop to the world? There's two, I would say two main ones.
Okay, so it actually does say in 2015, 4.5 billion people have access to mobile phones, while only 3 billion people have access to running water.
I've looked it up. I know it. That's over 50% more.
It says by 20, I guess this came out in 2016, but it says by 2020, the number of mobile phone owners increases to 5.4 billion, while people with access to running water jumps to 3.5 billion.
Okay, billions more people have access to a freaking smartphone. Guess what I need in order to have Bitcoin? Smartphone. I need a bank. I don't need an ID. I don't need any of it. I just need a smartphone. That's it, right? In fact, they actually have sent Bitcoin without internet over over data carriers by typing in each letter of the key individually and sending it that way. Okay. The problem that Bitcoin solves is two things. Number one, it's ownership. All right. If I go and I don't have it with me, but if I have my ledger, right? If I have my hard wallet, right? The only person that can access that is me, right? Gun to my head, they couldn't do it. If they shoot me, they lose the Bitcoin. It's gone forever, right? Because I'm the only one that has it, because if I memorize my key, right? So I have ownership. Land, if I own land, is that an asset? Yes. But the only reason I truly own land is either A, I have bigger guns, which I don't have bigger guns in the U.S. government, or B, I'm operating under contract law.
Dude, if you piss off any government, they will take any fucking real estate that you have.
100%, right? So do you really own land? Yeah, but not really, right? So Bitcoin.
Then if you don't pay property taxes,
and then they'll take your land. It's a bunch of bullshit, right? But it's the worst thing ever, right?
If you replace the word property taxes with annual rent, like that's pretty much the same thing.
That's what it is. It's ridiculous, right? It makes no sense unless you're Trump, and then you bury your wife on your. Did you see this? He buried his wife on his golf course or on his property or whatever. And if your property is the site of a whatchamacallit?
Cemetery.
Yeah. It's you pay no taxes of any sort.
Oh, really?
Really?
So he buried his wife that just died there. Oh, Trump.
Wait, Trump's wife died?
Nah, his ex-wife.
Oh,
so he buried her.
On the property. Now he doesn't have to pay
On
taxes.
the property near a cemetery.
Interesting.
No. She's the only one.
The property is a
And
cemetery.
now it's
cemetery.
and now it's anyway, okay, but here's the thing. Bitcoin, I own it. It is mine. Nobody can take it from me. I forget the exact statistic, but it's like someone is more likely to win the lottery like 300,000 times in a row than someone is to guess your Bitcoin key, right? Or your wallet key, right? So that's the first problem it solves is ownership. I actually have actual ownership that cannot be taken from me. It's mine, right? So that's the first thing. Cool, sounds good, but it only has value if, right, that there's some other use for it if people value it, right? Bitcoin solves the problem of energy transfer instantaneously around the globe for almost nothing. So if you were to go and I were in China and I wanted to send electricity to America, right? I would have to use what?
A power grid?
Some wire. Yeah, I'd have to be some form of connection to get that energy. For every however many miles it is, I don't know the exact thing, there's a drop off, which means if I send 100 units of electricity from China, all 100 are not going to reach America. There's going to be a big drop off, right? It's, I don't know, 20%, whatever it is, as the distance goes. So my value of my energy, my value of my asset decreases, all right? So when I want to send energy, money, we talked about this, right, to anyone else, I want to send an asset to anyone else, it costs me something and it takes a lot of time. Gold, for example, I want to pay you in gold. It's heavy. It takes a long time to move, right? What Bitcoin does is Bitcoin allows you to instantaneously transfer energy anywhere in the world for practically nothing. Someone just did it. It's like $150 million they sent in Bitcoin from one side of the world to the other. It cost them like 7 cents or something like that to do that. 7 cents, and it happened in 3 seconds, right? Where else can you send $150 million in 3 seconds for 7 cents? It doesn't happen, right? And so the problem that Bitcoin solves is not only ownership, but the ability to transfer energy, right? Anywhere, wealth, an asset anywhere in the world instantaneously, right? And so why I think Bitcoin has an incredible amount of value, Jordan Peterson, I was watching a lecture from him, right? Someone was like, okay, well, let's say to mine Bitcoin, we're talking about Bitcoin mining, you go to a place where electricity is super duper duper cheap, right? And I mine a bunch of Bitcoin, and then I instantaneously send that Bitcoin to a place where electricity is super duper expensive. Right? Then I can sell that Bitcoin and I can not only pay for the electricity, offset it, but I also have a profit, right? And so the fundamental thing that Bitcoin and blockchain solves is I have digital ownership of assets that I can send and transfer anything in the world that no one can stop. There is no third-party entity. No one can stop the transaction, not a government. So let's say, I wanted to send money to you and I'm like, hey, let me send you Venmo, right? The government can just step in or Venmo can step in and be like, nah, fam, right? So Bitcoin,
and Venmo has a limit. 2,500,
right?
Or no, 5K.
But you get the point, right? And so I think that Bitcoin has incredible amount of value on top of crypto in general. But like Bitcoin has an incredible amount of value because even in doomsday, even in the world, technology is still going to exist. 6 billion people, whatever it was, have smartphones, right? So if I want to pay you and the US dollar is worthless, we can just agree upon how much is instantaneous. Nobody can stop me. It's done. 100%. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like I'm not very into this doomsday shit, but I'm like starting to get into it.
Well, you're learning to fly, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of that whole like doomsday plan. If I got to hop in my fucking plane and bounce to Mexico or some shit, like
I'm coming with.
I'll be there in like 2 hours.
I live right next to the airport. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, like I've thought about all these different things, and I think that at the end of the day, like, have you seen Doomsday Preppers, the show?
Mm-mm.
Like it's a show about people who just doomsday prep, and they all have their own theories on how the world's gonna end.
Yeah.
So even if you like have a theory, you're also banking on it being the right theory. Like some of them think it's gonna be like a Russian pandemic or something.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them think it's gonna be like a cyber attack. Some think it's gonna be a meteor. Some think it's gonna be a regular pandemic. Yep. Whatever. So they're all kind of preparing for whatever they think is gonna be the end of the world. Mm-hmm. And it's a different preparation style
for sure,
no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, and I also think that, I mean, prepping externally is great, right? I mean, I'm definitely would be considered in the doomsday prepper column, right? The amount of food and water and ammo and guns and things that I have and own is a lot, right? Compared to the average person. But I also, and I also believe that the single best thing that anyone can do to prep for anything in life, including a doomsday, is just figure out what it means to become the best version of yourself and provide real value to the world. Because even in a doomsday, right, like if everything went out, truly, right? And we did go power grid off and a nuclear bomb and everything of that nature or whatever. Like if you know how to create real value in the world, if you know who you are, you know what you bring, you know the value that you bring, you can communicate with people, right? Then you're always going to be able to create value basically out of thin air and barter for, you know, things of that nature. Assets make it easier, but that's where it ultimately comes back to, which is why I spend so much money on personal development. Yeah.
JR's going to just be flying back and forth from Mexico.
Yeah, he'll be able to fly.
He's going to come. He's gonna pick up us, fly back there, drop us off, pick you up, fly back, drop us.
I guess. Yeah, I think that going back to the oh, you pivoted away from that. If I can pivot the conversation though, just slightly with this is like everything that we're talking about, whether it's doomsday prepper or making money or politics or anything like that. Like at the end of the day, like none of it matters. I believe that, right? None of this matters in the grand scheme of life, right? Because like at the end of the day, we're here for what? 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, tops, right? Maybe we get some anti-aging. We're here for 150
I'm
years.
Asian, so
right?
112 for me.
112, 112 years.
Joking.
But like when you ultimately think about the grand scheme of things and like what ultimately shifted for me after, you know, Kyle died and there was, you know, a lot of psychedelics in there and, you know, things of that nature as well. Like I took a step back and I asked myself, what's my purpose here on this earth? Right? Because the first question that Katie asked me as I'm sitting there completely overwhelmed, have no idea what the heck I'm going to do with my life or whatever, is we got on the first call. I've told the story a million times. We get on the very first call and I'm sitting there and we rent an apartment. I'm sitting, you know, talking to her and she's like, what do you need help with? And I'm like, my money, my business, blah, 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 all that. She goes, cool. Josh, are you done? Yeah. She goes, cool. Who are you? Right? And like that fundamental question of who am I had to go back from the beginning and strip that back. And that was an insanely difficult question to ask. It's so difficult to know who you are, right? Especially when you never thought about it. And so for the next, you know, really 2 years of going through and figuring out and pulling back that question, in order to answer the question of who am I, right, I had to go through and figure out also, part of that was figuring out my purpose here on this earth, right? And so as someone, and I told you this, I'm quite religious, not in the traditional sense. I have huge, massive problems with the church, right? I think the church is fundamentally broken, traditional church as we know it. I don't think they stand for anything hardly at all, right? But in answering the question of who I am, I know that who I am as a child, I'm a child of God saved by him, right? Like that is the very first thing in my identity, right? Yes, I'm Josh Forti, but who is Josh Forti? Child of God saved by him, right? I'm also married to Leah. Leah is part of who I am as well. And so by starting to answer the question and figuring out who am I, naturally the next question that comes is like, okay, cool, then why am I here, right? Is it for pleasure? Is it for fame? Because like the roller coaster of life, right? And so I'm trying to figure out that question and, you know, doomsday prep, and we can think about all these things, but why stay alive? If it all comes crashing down and there's sickness and everything, why not just die, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to start to answer the question of like, okay, why am I here? What was I put on this earth to do, right? And so I believe that we as humans, going back to the three worlds things, I believe that we as humans are vessels, all right? We are vessels. And we are put on this earth. We are not our body. We are not our mind, right? We are us. And we are a soul, right? In a mental mind and a physical body, right? And I am put here on this earth to bring glory and honor to God. That is my purpose and mission here on earth. That is what I've been put here to do. And so you can be like, okay, why don't you go be a missionary in Africa, right? Well, God chooses different vessels differently, right? Let me ask you, if you were a part of an engine, if you were, I don't know, freaking piston inside of the engine, right? What is a piston put on this earth to do? Well, it's here to be the piston in the engine, right? To make the car run. Well, why don't you go be a tire? Well, it's because I'm not made to be a tire. I'm made to be a piston, right? And so for me, I go, cool, I'm put on this earth to bring glory and honor to God. What does that mean? What does that look like for me? And that's when the idea of choice comes in. And so when I understand that my first and foremost responsibility on this earth, forget the money, forget the success, forget any of it, is to bring glory and honor to God and become the best version of who I am in Him. And then He has given me choice to co-create what I'm going to do here in this world with Him. And I use that as the grounding. Then, by definition, if you believe in Christ as I do, you will have all of Christ's blessings. And one of His promises is that He will never leave you nor forsake you. So I look at the doomsday prepper, I look at money, I look at success, I look at fame and feeling behind or ahead or this or having it all figured out or not figured it out. And I go to bed at night, and every single night I remind myself, I'm a child of God saved by Him. He will never leave me nor forsake me, right? So when you have that and when you live that way in life, all of a sudden you start to realize and unlock that we are living in a physical realm, but we are not physical beings. We are spiritual beings. We are spiritual creatures in a physical body, right? And so if the spiritual world and the physical world connect somehow through us, right? We have access to all God's promises, to all God's gifts. And so I can go and I can show up powerfully no matter the situation, no matter what, because God will never leave me or forsake me. And I'm a vessel created in his image. Does that make sense? That was a long tangent.
Are you like public about your psychedelic use?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I've seen you talk about it.
Quite. I'm very.
Okay. How do you feel like that's kind of tied into entrepreneurship and all this, finding yourself shit?
The problem with psychedelics is that if someone's never done it, you can't even remotely begin to explain what it's like, right?
Some people use it incorrectly.
Super incorrectly. Some people use it to party, some people use it whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like I use it very intentionally. Very, very intentionally, right? For me, the very first time I did psychedelics was I heard people talking about it and I was hearing people how it shifted your perspective. And I was like, well, I want a different perspective in life. Yay. Well, the very first time I ever did psychedelics, I started tripping and I'm like, oh my gosh, right? I know things. And so I started taking out notebooks and just writing down thoughts. And I watched a webinar. Like I was like doing all these different things.
How long ago was this?
I don't know, a couple years ago now. I don't know. But what it did is it gave me a sense of understanding that I am not this, right? Like this is a body that I'm responsible for, but I am connected to something higher. And I think the big mistake, particularly with Christians or anybody religious that they use with psychedelics, is that they believe that psychedelics allow you to like connect with God or become one with God or that we are God or they find God through psychedelics. I knew God outside of psychedelics, right? What psychedelics allowed me to do was shift and change the perspective of understanding of how things work at a fundamental level that can never be, like you can never go back on, right? If you've ever done that. And so like the way that I explained it to people that have never done it before is like, imagine being able to look at anything, right? Because we all hear like, oh, we're all connected and everything, what you do here affects everybody else, right? But imagine being able to look at anything and instantaneously be able to pull it apart and see how it connects to everything else in the world, right?
But what psychedelic specifically are you referring to with that?
LSD.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Like the one time that I did LSD, that was what it was like.
100%.
Like
LSD.
I understood why the symbol for psychedelics is like the yin and yang peace symbol. Yeah. Because that's literally how you interpret everything on psychedelics.
100%.
And like for me, I remember I have a bunch of videos of me like talking the first time I did acid.
Yeah, I've recorded like 4 hours of me the first time.
Yeah. And I was like, it's so hard. It's so hard to make like a black and white judgment on LSD. Like it's so hard to be like you understand why people are Republican and Democrat at the same time. Yeah. Yep. And you like understand you understand why everything is like the answer to everything is like yes and no. Mm-hmm. Like you just really feel like everything is connected and how for me, my biggest takeaway was like my whole life, I've chased binary yes and no, right and wrong, good and bad.
100%.
And on LSD, I was like, my biggest takeaway was like, I've always sought that out because that is an easy way to interpret the world. It's
yeah, we crave certainty.
This is good, this is bad. Entrepreneur good, employee bad. Republican good, Democrat bad, or vice versa, whatever. Yeah. Time freedom good, no time freedom bad. And to me, like the reason I did that, I realized on LSD was because it was a shortcut to just understanding life or creating an understanding of life.
Creating an understanding.
Yeah. So then once I was on LSD and I kind of thought about everything, I was like, that's just kind of been my way of shaping a worldview to navigate the world in a way that I understand that makes sense to me.
Yep.
Is to try to have like everything is binary, good and bad. Yep. And I've noticed like now kind of having this conversation and thinking back to that day and everything that's happened since then, I've drifted more into like binary, good and bad. Like, lately I've kind of been struggling with like, should I spend more of my money on having fun and getting things that I want? Or should I just, hoard money and really not spend it and just enjoy looking at it in the bank account or whatever, or just enjoy investing it or whatever. And I've wanted to either do one or the other, like no middle ground. Like either I'm the fucking cheapest motherfucker you've ever met, or I'll buy like a plane, a car, a Rolex, like everything that I want. Yeah. And now thinking back to like the day that I did psychedelics, like if I were to think about this on LSD, my answer to that would be like, it's probably both. Like you can spend your money and you can invest your money and you can have fun with your money and you can help people with your money and you can pay taxes with your money and you can fucking, do tax strategies to pay less taxes with your money.
But I think that right there, that whole binary thing is the trap that, and I'm not accusing you of this in any way, shape, or form, but I think that oftentimes the reason a lot of people struggle with that is because they don't actually understand what their purpose is in this life, right? Because think about it. If I know with every fiber of who I am, which I do, that I'm a child of God, saved by him, and that my purpose on this earth is to bring glory and honor to God, right? Now the question becomes, well, should I spend this money here or should I spend this money here? Well, the question is not, should I do this or should I do that? It's, how does this align with what my purpose is here to put? Now, does God allow us to experience pleasure? 100%, right? Does God want us to have nice things? Absolutely. He's a God of cattle of 1,000 hills. He owns it all, right? He wants you to have nice things, but he also wants you to be responsible, right? So if you're making, as we said earlier, $6,000 a month or $8,000 a month, and you're buying an $80,000 car, is that being in alignment with principles for me? This is my, my life, with the principles of God. Well, no, because God talks about being responsible with your money and tithing 10% and investing and taking care of your family, everything's like that. Someone like you, where that's like 1% of your income, who cares, right? Because God would be like, hey, listen, you've worked hard. I have blessed you tremendously, right? Hey, yes, buy your car, but also what are you doing that's going to go and bring glory and honor to me in that? Because guess what? Me experiencing God's abundance brings glory and honor to God. Right? So me driving a sports car can bring glory and honor to God as long as I do it in accordance with that. And so for me, since my purpose on this earth is bring glory and honor to God, I make decisions through that lens, right? Whereas somebody else, if they think their purpose on earth is to, I don't know, Dan Bilzerian, right?
Fuck bitches, get money.
Right. That's it, right. 100%, right? If that's what he thinks is like to experience pleasure at the highest level, right? Then great. Then that's how he's going to make decisions. And so I think oftentimes, at least for me, when I would get caught in these binary things, because I struggle with that crazy with Katie. Like I'd be like, Katie, right, wrong, absolutes, right? It was, the reason I was struggling with that is because I didn't have a target. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have something that I was shooting towards and could measure whether this action got me closer or further away from that goal, right? Because if there's no goal, if there's no like, this is what I'm here to do, then it's like good, bad. Well, relative. What's the goal? Make sense? Just like anything else.
You think, does the Bible talk about psychedelics? Because I've heard that like the burning bush story or whatever is some sort of bush that grows in that region of the world and could have been like some sort of like psychedelic experience.
I don't think that's a far-fetched theory. It does not specifically address that, to my knowledge, at least, no. But it's certainly not a far-fetched theory. I know there's Christians that would avidly say that was not the case, right? That, God would never use drugs, blah, blah, blah. I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be, but it doesn't specifically.
Yeah, I've been hesitant to do LSD again because it's just such an intense.
Oh, it's so intense.
Fucking time.
It's like 12, 13 straight hours of absolute no control, and you're like, what is life? And
dude, shit melting, like it was
ridiculous.
Scary.
Molly's enough for me, man. I'll just stay right there.
Do them both at the same time. Great time.
Bro, when he told me about Molly, I was like, I'm never doing that. And then eventually, like 5 months later, I finally agreed to it, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna cap it right here.
Yeah, but I think different ones do different things. Little advice on that is like, obviously, if you're going to do it, don't do it alone, right? Make sure there's someone there to take care of you, things of that nature. The thing that I always do is before I ever go into some form of trip or psychedelic, and I'm very intentional, very, very, very intentional with this. This is not something I'm just like, yeah, let's just do it for the sake of whatever, right? I'm either with people, want to connect with them, I want to study something, understand something, pray, meditate, right? Stuff like that. But it's understand that you have to have some form of a grounding. So like I take my whiteboard and I write down everything's good. I'm like, my finances are good. My relationships are good. No one, and like, this is grounding. This is reality, right? Because there is no concept of reality in that world. Oh my gosh, right? Like what the world? So like, and then when you start to have a bad trip or you freak out, you're like, right? Then I just come back and I'm like, okay, I know. And I remember that I wrote that, right? I remember like that's okay, cool. I can go back into this. And even though it's crazy and I don't understand it, like I'm good, right? And I think that's a big mistake is people just like dropping.
Yeah, it's interesting how entrepreneurship is like the gateway drug to self-improvement because like for me, I only ever wanted to self-improve to make more money because I was like, if I'm a better person, I'm a more well-read person, educated person, harder working person, I'll make more money. And that's also kind of what led me to like I didn't do psychedelics until like pretty late in life. Like,
bro, you're what, 28?
Yeah, 28. But I mean, most people start at. I mean, I guess yeah, pretty late. Like, dude, Joe Rogan never even smoked weed till he was like 35.
Oh, really? Shit. I didn't know that.
So I
he's a
like
pothead.
Part of the reason why I wanted to try them was to. I've heard like, for example, I've known people that have done ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And this guy, Michael Chen, I think his name is, he was the 6 Minute Abs, like Asian bodybuilding dude. And he was in the 6 Minute Abs videos. And this dude did ayahuasca and then came back and was like, I don't want to fucking do this shit anymore, and just completely. That's why I'm scared to do that one, because from what I hear, it's like for a lot of people, they just completely like opt out of the whole game.
Check out for sure.
So I'm like, before I do that one, I want to have enough money to where I can opt out of the game comfortably. And because a lot, like I've heard stories of people like work on Wall Street, go down to Peru, do ayahuasca,
100%.
and then they realize like how bullshit all this is. And
I just met someone that did that. And
really?
Yeah, she worked. She was a Silicon Valley tech executive. She went down. She did ayahuasca. Came back. She's like, I was sitting in the board meetings, and like the first or second board meeting back, and she's like, all I could do is just look around and be like, none of this effing matters at all. And then she just quit. She left and
yeah, but I struggle to understand that, because okay, let's say you work at Facebook, and Facebook's company mission has always been to connect every human being on the planet.
Yep.
So even if you're like the front desk person at Facebook and you just did ayahuasca, you could be like, well, I am working to connect every person on the planet, which is probably a good thing. And I would say,
I mean, do ayahuasca and let me know.
Regardless of how people feel about Facebook and big tech companies, Facebook's been overall net positive, I think,
100% agree with that,
for humanity. I mean, a lot of people have been connected, but also I did read a book written by a divorce lawyer. Amazing fucking book on like relationships and shit. It's called "If You're in My Office, It's Already Too Late." And he said that like Facebook is like one of the #1 starters of divorces, because people find people from their like high school days or college days when they're like going through turbulent times or whatever in their relationship. So he's like, my #1 piece of advice is, if you're married, delete Facebook.
And that does not surprise me at all, in any way, shape, or form. But I think going back to that thing, it's like when you work in it and you don't find meaning in it, if like, there's very few people, I think, in particular Silicon Valley, that are just like, yes, this is my mission, my calling. And then you have some experience that changes every element of how you see yourself. Your ego is dead, and like all the different things. I think you can definitely, like, I can see how someone would come back to that and be like, none of this matters, right? This is not there. So yeah, I just met her, and her friend actually started a business. But what does she do?
Like, what does she do now?
She helps smaller entrepreneurs or whatever create automation and stuff. But she only works with people that like she's like genuinely connects with, right? So she's higher ticket, and like is like, if she believes in your mission, then she'll help you like systemize your business and like stuff like that as far as like automations. But she has a friend who I've not met, but she said he did it too, and now his entire company is helping people that have done ayahuasca implement ayahuasca, like their experience, back into their normal life, because it's so profound, it's so life changing that people don't know what to do, and they freak out, and they, like you said, they just check out. Yeah. And so he was like, hey, I can help you kind of integrate that, and that's his whole business. You go down, if you freak out, you come back, you're like, oh, this, you go to him, and he helps you figure out a way to integrate back and bring back some sort of normalcy.
How did you, growing up, getting into like the entrepreneurship space and like spending $1,000 on a course, $25,000 on coaching?
Yeah.
When like, I'm sure your family's like monthly food budget was probably under $1,000 or whatever. How do you, like, for me, it took a while to be like, I'm really going to give somebody $1,000 for some shit that they pre-recorded one time that they have no costs on. It was really, really hard for me to like cope with the idea that like, I'm giving this person $1,000 for some shit that they're not really doing any work for right now. So how did you like just kind of jump in and be okay with spending money for knowledge?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I don't know if I did at the beginning. I don't know if I struggled with that because I was in so much
pain.
I
used to pirate every fucking course.
Oh, really?
Like at one point I had a fucking disk drive, and there was this website back in the day, and it had like every single guru course on there.
You were that guy.
And I had them all fucking downloaded, and I never went through any of them, and I never did jack shit. The only things I ever implemented was the shit that I paid for.
Going back to the energy thing, right? Energy, it's your focus, you're buying certainty. At the beginning, it was just, hey, you can make. I just want to make money. I didn't care what. I was so broke, right? When I would wake up every Saturday, I would get paid every Friday, and every Saturday I would wake up and I would count exactly down to the dollar, like how much I had every single Saturday, right? And I remember that my leftover budget at the end of every month, after I paid everything, I had $54 a month left over. That was it, right? So there I am working. I'm getting $54. I'm saving everything I can. And so for me, all I wanted was like, I just need to increase that income, right? And so it started with Uber and flipping stuff on Craigslist. I drove for Uber at night on the weekends, right? From like, 5 or 6 o'clock when I got off work, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would flip stuff. And so my first course, it was a promise of, they didn't sell me, oh yeah, Instagram. They were like, hey, this is a way that people are making money on the internet from their own home. And so for me, it was an outcome. I was sold an outcome.
Dude, I remember seeing stuff like that though, and having never made any money on the internet, I was like, this is not real. Like, this has to be a scam. There's just no way that everyone I've ever known in my entire life has made money by going and physically doing something with their hands and feet at a physical place. There's just no fucking way that there's people out there making money without physically being somewhere. Like, it was so hard to grasp that in my mind that I just automatically assumed anything that even claimed that had to be a fucking scam. And as soon as you put your credit card in there, your whole fucking bank account's getting wiped out.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't until I met Dan Henry, because I met Dan when he had gone on a podcast, and I was looking for people to come on my podcast that I had just started for the sole purpose of trying to figure out if there was actually a way to make money on the internet.
Yeah.
So then I found him early enough where I was like the 11th person in his course.
I remember that.
And it was in beta and all this shit. And really getting to talk to him.
Shout out Facebook ads for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way that this guy is making this shit up, because it was so detailed. I got to ask him. So he came on my podcast. I talked to him for like an hour afterwards about how he ran Facebook ads for his bar and got people in the door and all this shit. And that was the first time where I was like, okay, I found one person. Like, I've met one person and he showed like the check from when he sold his bar, and it was like $98,000. And I was like, there's no way this dude could be faking all this shit. Yeah. And that was the first person where I was like, it was like a glimmer. I still didn't believe. It's a difference between believing something's possible and then believing it's possible for you.
Yeah, 100%.
It wasn't until like I joined the course and then I saw other people who joined after me making money that I was like, oh shit, this is actually this can be a real thing.
Yeah, it's funny because I had tried so many things before that. And like I said, flipping stuff on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, driving for Uber. I joined a network marketing company. I didn't even know it was a network marketing company. I didn't even know what that was.
Drop shipping, probably.
Yeah. No, it was the first one was a travel company. And then like after I realized like that was thing, I charged back on my credit card for it. I was like, so this like, I'm never going to travel. I don't have the money for this, because you had like...
Dude, I joined so many fucking MLMs too.
Yeah, but then the second one was like selling that Cajun water, I think it was, like way back in the thing. And what was crazy was I filled out the whole entire thing. I like went to the meeting. I was like, okay, we're going to sell this or whatever. And then right beforehand, I think I watched a video that was like, no, you might even been Gary Vee. That was like, no, you can make more money than flipping stuff, going to garage sales and stuff. So I would go to Goodwill and then turn around and sell it. So like, I never had a problem with that, because I would always just go through and be like, well, if these people are getting results and I can do the same thing, then cool. And so I never actually really had a problem paying for that. What I had a problem paying for was lots of money for little access, right? Because that's what I struggled with. I was
dude, I hate when people say like, oh, you spend $5,000, you never even get to talk to the guy. I'm like, okay, how much money do you spend on fucking Amazon? Do you ever talk on Jeff Bezos? Dumb fuck?
Right. Well, but I had a problem. No, but I had a problem with it where they would be like, well, you should come to this event, and it's $5,000 for the ticket to the event, and it'll change. Like you'll get way more than the amount out of it. And I'm like, how? But it's like, well, when you don't have a business, when you're a beginner, like you're not going to get $5,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like I always had a problem with that, and it wasn't until afterwards when I actually had an asset. Right. My first real asset that I had was my Instagram accounts. Right. Where there was someone that was like, hey, you can pay me $1,000 for a consulting call or something like that. And I was like, that is so not worth it or whatever. He's like, no, dude. And so I made a deal with them, and I was like, hey, I will pay you afterwards if I think, like, if I implement what you do and it works, right? I'll be good on my word. I'm always good on my word. If I tell you I'm going to pay you, I'm going to pay you, right? So he's like, all right, cool, whatever he does. I don't know.
Wow, I would have never done that.
I would have been like, get the hell out of here.
But some random dude over Instagram I'm DMing. I'm in a group. We're in a networking group together or whatever, right? He's like, this is cool, whatever, right? So he gets on there. He's like, no, this is what you got to do. And it was something like as simple as, hey, reaching out to big, massive accounts is like just as easy as reaching out to small accounts, right? You just have to approach them like slightly differently, right? And so I go and I reached out to like a big, massive account, right? And I was like, hey, I was either selling shout outs or buying some shout outs or something like that. But I did. And by doing it, it was like 5 times the amount of result for the same amount of effort. And I was like, oh, okay, that's worth it, right? But it was like I already had an asset to
Did you
apply
pay the
it to.
guy?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was like, I think it's $1,000. Right? Maybe it was 500, something like that, right? He was a kid. He was like 19, right? And I don't even know who he was. Like I never saw his face or anything. It was just over whatever WhatsApp or not WhatsApp, Telegram. Telegram was back then, right? Another guy I paid. This is the craziest crap, right? I had a Instagram page like 200,000 followers, right? And all of a sudden it was just gone, deleted, couldn't find it, gone. I was like, what the frick, right? And so we started looking around, but this is like my main driver. This was like my main page, right? And so I'm like in Telegram groups trying to find it or whatever, and someone's like, hey, we got a guy that can get it back for you. And I'm like, doesn't even exist. He's like, yeah. So he connects me with a guy. I'm talking to the guy and I'm like, can you get it back? He's like, yeah, 100%. I'm like, how can you be so sure that you can get it back? He's like, because I'm the one that took it down.
Oh.
And I was like, what the frick? He's like, dude, somebody else paid me a bunch of money to take it down for you. He was mad at you.
He worked at Instagram?
No, I don't know who he was. He was a black market
He said,
Instagram,
I can get it back.
and so I was like, what the heck? And he's like, pay me $3,000 for 25. It was like a lot back then because I was like, what? I think it was 2,000. These are $2,000 or $3,000. He's like, and it'll be back up in 24 hours. And I was like, there's no way I'm paying you that amount of money up front. I'll pay you half, right? And so we negotiated back and forth. So I paid him half. Thing goes back up. The page goes back up. Paid him the remaining balance. And I was like, what the heck? I was like, who paid you to take it down? He's like, dude, it doesn't matter. I was like, no. It's like, I'm pushing this dude. Like, I want to know. Dude, some random, I don't know, he's some big investor dude or whatever. I reshared one of his images. You know, back in the day, you just grab a bunch of images, post them up there. I don't know who it was, right? Shared it. And it was like 3 in a row from his page. No freaking clue. I didn't even know who the page was. And that guy saw it, got mad, paid some guy, that guy, to take down my page just because he was pissed off at me.
Wow.
And that same guy was like,
you got the virtual shakedown?
Like, what the heck? Yeah, dude. It was crazy.
I mean, that guy just double dipped. He took your thing down and then put it back
The new
up.
version of that is stealing catalytic converters and then selling it back to the same person in Denver. That's probably what that guy's doing now.
Yeah, probably, right? But yeah, dude. So I don't know. I never had a problem with investing for speed. Like, I got it. Like, I was like, oh, you have a skill. I'm not going to college. I'm doing this instead. This person has it. And I think that's always been my trade-off is like, I can either go pay $100,000 to go to college to learn something I'll never use, or I can pay someone a fraction of that to learn something I can use right now. Right. And so for me, like, dude, the reason I'm in the course, because like people have been trying to get me out of coursing and a consulting space. Like, dude, get out. Like, you know, like, go play bigger ponds. Like, you know, go do blah, blah. And I'm like, I love it. It changed my life. I'm a coach. I love teaching. I love teaching. And like, people come into my programs and they're like, you are the most interactive coach. There's bonus calls all the time. I'm sending them Loom videos where they're like, why? And I'm like, because I love it. I love teaching. I love being able to share what I have learned and watch someone's life directly get better. And you know what? If I have to over-deliver a little bit for now as we're building out the program, stuff like that, so be it. And I've never been the person that's going to prevent access. I always believe that if you just share and give and go, like, it will come back to you. And people are like, why do you sell courses? I'm like, because giving free information, people will apply one way.
I had every course on the planet.
And then, right. And then selling it is a completely different one. So I will give you all the free information because I know either A, you will never apply, or B, you will apply. And you're going to come back and be like, what you did worked, I'll pay you for yours, right? And you'll come into that. And like, it's just a different experience. People think it's information, but yeah. So I never had a problem with it.
All right, last question.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm listening right now.
Yeah.
I'm fat.
Oh boy.
I'm broke. I'm frustrated. I fucking wake up every day, work my ass off for very little money.
Yeah.
My kids don't listen to me.
Yeah.
My wife's ugly. What should I do?
Like, as much as this is not the answer that people want to hear, and it's not, politically correct, it's not, the easy way out or whatever, it's first and foremost, recognize that you are 100% in control of your life. No matter what happened to you, no matter how you got here was the result of your actions. Even if it wasn't your fault, the actions that you took led you right here. So first and foremost, take absolute 100% control of literally everything in your life, and understand that no matter who's affecting you, no matter what it is your responsibility to change it. That's step one.
Starts with accountability.
Yeah. Just knowing that my second podcast episode ever on my podcast was everything is your fault. And my whole argument for this is when you understand that everything is your fault, that is one of the most empowering statements in the world, because that means you have the ability to change it. Right? So that's step one. And then step two, and this is the only reason it's second, it's the most important piece, but it's like, you can't really do this until you first take responsibility. And that is figure out who the F you are. Like, go look yourself in the mirror. Go get a notebook. Go get a binder and open it up and write down how you see yourself and figure that out. Be brutally honest. Write down how much you weigh, why you hate your life, how much money is in your bank account, how much debt you have, what you don't like, what you would do, like, and look at it. Look at yourself in the mirror. Get naked. Get in front of the mirror and go, this is me. I accept this. Right? Now this is your reality. Right? Now it's like, it doesn't matter. It's not the government. No one's coming to save you, right? So now this is reality. Now we got something to work with, right? And start to ask yourself the question over and over. Who am I? Who am I? Not what am I going to do now? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Because when you start to do that question or ask that question, you're going to start to realize that the actions that you're doing and the things that you're doing do not line up with who it is that you're trying to become and who you are, right? So first, take ultimate responsibility for your life, right? Say, this is my responsibility. Second, figure out who the F you are. Figure it out, right? Get that and get super, super clear on that. And then third, understand that all external factors right now probably are distractions that will pull you away from growth, right? Right? There's so much oh, you should be doing this or whatever. Right? Cut it all off. Go into like hibernation mode. Understand that you're not going to have the life that you want easily, right? Give yourself at least 6 months, right? I'd say a year, but like just go, okay, for the next 6 months, I'm going to disappear. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to start to fix from the inside out and trust that the universe will align, I believe it's God, will align with those actions and reward you proportionally. Figure out who you are. You got to start there and then move forward.
Boom. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Fuck yeah.
Sir.
Cool. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Appreciate you guys tuning in on this episode. Let people know where they can find you.
At Josh Forti, everywhere. JoshForti.com, Josh Forti on Instagram, Josh Forti on Facebook.
Last Bitcoin plug.
Buy Bitcoin. Hold Bitcoin.
There you go. And you can find us at It's Philip Tran on Instagram.
At JR Rivas.
At JR Rivas. And we'll see you guys next time.